So, here is the question that is immediately before us. What's the difference between lying and joking? When does a joke become sinful? This is a this is a really important question. What does Jesus say in Matthew 12:36? Heart, extremely important question. The difference between lying and joking.
But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give an account of it in the day of judgment.
So the day of judgment will address every single word you have ever spoken. Words that were intentional, words that were unintentional. And the thing about our question, jokes and lying, they require you to speak. You have to use words. And so this is a thing that is going to be dealt with on the day of judgment. This is extremely important. So this matters. So lying and joking. So let's get some definitions. So let's start with lying, since that's the first issue. What is a lie? What is lying?
Telling someone what someone or what you did or did not do.
Okay, so you're right. And lying it's kind of complex. It's not just one kind of lie. So, for example, there are lies for the purpose of appearing to be something that you're not. You might do this because of pride. So you want to act like you're wealthy. You want to act like you have a lot of friends. You want to act like you are holy or something else. You are telling stories and tales that are completely untrue because of pride. Another reason you might do that is because of fear, right? Children, you've done something wrong. There's a spanking that's coming. Your mother or your father asked you, did you take that toy? Did you play with that thing? Thank you. And the child says no. Now, are they saying no because they want to, in pride, show themselves that? No, what are they saying no for? Because they are trying to get out of trouble. So some lies are for the sake of pride, boasting, exaggerating, trying to look like something. Some lies are for the sake of fear, trying to avoid embarrassment. Proverbs 13:7 says, one pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. And there are people like this. Culture I grew up in, the hip-hop culture, these guys, they'd be in the videos and they'd have these chains and these cars and all this stuff, and it turns out the cars were rented, the chains were fake, the money was false. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. They're lying. Another pretends to be poor, yet has wealth. But then there's other kind of lies. There's the lies that are beguiling or deceiving, scamming. This is for the purpose of harming you. One is for the sake of lifting up yourself, pride, protecting yourself, fear. It really has nothing to do with the other person. It's really all about you. But then there are lies that have to do with trying to harm someone else. And that could be, you have money that I want, and so I'm going to tell you whatever I need to tell you to get that money from you. We get phone calls, right? Your social security number has been hijacked. Well, we need to talk to you about this bill. And what are they doing? They're lying. They're telling these tales so that they can get your confidence, so that they can take from you. People lie in relationships, right? They're especially in these the high school years. Boys will tell a girl, "I love you," but they don't really love this girl. Why are they doing that? Because there's something they want. So there's lies of manipulation, lies of cunning to lure someone away. False teachers would fall under this. People abuse children and they lie to them. They say, "Here, I have some candy for you. I have a toy for you. Come play with it. This is a game. I'm not going to harm you." And the truth of the matter is, they're getting the confidence for the sake of harming. They're telling lies. There are different types of lies. The serpent would be the first example of this in our Bible. He tricked Eve. He beguiled Eve. 2 Corinthians 11:3. "But I am afraid," Paul saying this, "that as the serpent deceived Eve by his cunning," that's a word that is dealing with lying. He was cunning. He's more crafty than all the beasts of the field. "Your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ." False teachers lie. They say, "You don't need to worry about your sin. You don't need to worry about the day of judgment. You don't need to worry about the Bible. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's okay. God will just forgive you. Just keep on." What are they doing? They're lying. And they are agents of who? What does the scripture say? False teachers are. They are, that doesn't use the word agents of, but who are false teachers ultimately the pawns of, the puppets of? The devil. Absolutely. Talks about the devil being he masquerades as an angel of light, and then the false teachers are just like him. They pretend to be for you. I was watching a little YouTube video of Costi Hinn. You ever heard that name? Costi Hinn, Benny Hinn's nephew, and he was telling the tales of it's a lie, it's a scam, and he has all the evidence and the proof to show that. Benny Hinn and these false teachers know that they are telling lies, know that they are deceiving these people. It's not where they're deceived themselves. They are fully aware that they are giving people false information. And why are they doing it? Because they want something from them. Lies. So lies are sinful. They are devilish. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and so lies are ungodly. They're anti-Christ. So does that mean every time you pretend, every time you appear as though something is true and it's not, is that always sin? Consider this. 1 Samuel 21. Here's David, starting with verse 13. "So he changed his behavior before them." These would be his enemies. "He changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle run down his beard." I like that word, spittle. So was David insane? No. What was he doing?
Pretending.
He was pretending. He was pretending to be insane. And what was the result of this? "Then Achish said to his servants, 'Behold, you see the man is mad.'" He tricked him. "Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen, that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?" So was David in sin here? He pretended to be insane. He wasn't. He deceived the person who he wanted to deceive. Was that sinful? Let's look at another one. Joshua 8, 15 through 20. We're talking about lying and joking, and what's the difference? We have to establish what a lie is and to understand It's not as black and white as we might want it to be. There's different categories of this. And the same is true when it comes to joking. Joshua 8:15-20, and Joshua and all Israel pretended to be beaten before them. So here's a battle, and Joshua and his army, children of Israel, act like they lost and fled in the direction of the wilderness. So they're running away, retreat. So all the people who were in the city were called together to pursue them. And as they pursued Joshua, they were drawn away from the city. So the people that were against them were in the city. Joshua and the Israelites run away. They empty the city chasing after them because they think, we got them now. They're in our hands. We will destroy them. Finally, they pursued Joshua. They were drawn away from the city. Not a man was left in Ai or Bethel who did not go out after Israel. They left the city open and pursued Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, you lied. You've deceived. You've done wrong. No. Then the Lord said to Joshua, stretch out the javelin that is in your hand toward Ai, for I will give it into your hand. Seems as though the Lord is actually blessing this pretending. And Joshua stretched out the javelin that was in his hand toward the city, and the men in the ambush rose quickly out of their place. And as soon as he had stretched out his hand, they ran and entered the city and captured it. And they hurried to set the city on fire. So when the men of Ai looked back, they realized, behold, the smoke of the city went up to heaven, and they had no power to flee this way or that, for the people who fled to the wilderness turned back against the pursuers. So this was a military strategy to trick the enemy, to make them think, we got you. And the Lord blessed it. They defeated their enemies, and there was no rebuke for this. But what's the most famous example of someone communicating something that was untrue? It was seen as righteous. Rahab. Joshua 2. And start with verse 1. Now, this is going to flow into joking because that's the reason for the question is because you tell a joke and it's not true and a lie is not true. So is it always wrong to say something that's not true? Joshua 2:1. And Joshua the son of Nun sent 2 men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, go view the land, especially Jericho. And they went and came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and lodged there. And it was told to the king of Jericho, behold, men of Israel have come here tonight to search out the land. Then the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, bring out the men who have come to you, who entered your house, for they have come to search out all the land. So here's a command from the authority, give us those guys. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. And she said, now here's her statement. True, the men came to me. Is that true? Yes. So she's good so far. But I did not know where they were from. Is that true? And when the gate was about to be closed at dark, the men went out. Is that true? I do not know where the men went. Is that true?
No.
So she's telling multiple. I mean, she could have just said they were here and they went somewhere else. That would have been true. Where did they go? They went to the roof. But she's saying things that are clearly not true. She said, true, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. That's not true. When the gate was about to be closed at dark, the men went out. That's not true. I do not know where the men he sent them was the wrong way. But she had brought them up to the roof and hid them with the stalks of flax that she had laid in order on the roof. So, lying, deceiving for the sake of pride, for the sake of fear, for the sake of harm, to hurt someone else, clearly is condemned in the Word of God. What made the difference in these other three accounts? Why were these accounts, and maybe we'd say, I don't know about the David one because there's no commentary, but clearly we know about Rahab, and clearly we know about Joshua because God speaks there, and Rahab is counted righteous for the very act of this thing. So what made the difference?
It was for good.
It's for good. What is it?
Motive.
Motive. Very important. That's going to go right into our joking question. Motive. Okay, so lying, pretty much know what that is. But joking. What is a joke?
Something that you say and it's meant to be funny, just to do it for fun.
Okay. A joke is something that is meant to be. Well, first, before we get to joke, let's think of some examples in our own lives. Let's say that someone has a birthday party coming up. Surprise party, right? And people are planning to do good for this person and must keep all information away from them. Are they deceiving that person? Yes. Is it sinful? Why not?
Because it's for good. It's out of love.
It's out of love. It's not to harm. It's not out of pride. It's not some self-preservation of fear. There's nothing unrighteous about the motive. This is truly for the sake of love, for the sake of good. Another example, an undercover cop. What is the job of an undercover police officer?
To hurt people.
They pretend to be something they are not, for the sake of getting the confidence of the criminals so that they can get information so that these people can be convicted and brought to justice. Now, those laws for undercover police officers are very clear. You cannot commit a crime. You cannot take drugs. You cannot kill someone. You cannot commit a crime. You can be in the midst of it, but you cannot participate in it. Is being an undercover police officer sinful?
It's to protect people.
Classic example. Holocaust. Corrie ten Boom. Knocking on the doors. Do you have Jews here? And if you've seen the cartoon, yes, hit it. No, Corey, you can't do that. Right? We don't tell them where the Jews are. Don't tell them where they're hiding. Was that sinful to not tell these Nazis where the Jewish people were hiding?
No, because you know what would happen to the Jews if you told them.
Right.
And they're innocent.
Right. So here again, so we're lying, saying things that are untrue is too broad of a definition. Because to say things that are not true would condemn David, Rahab, Joshua, the Israelites, for a few examples. So motive is very, very important here. Before we move on to joking, are there any questions?
Or is there a difference between so Rahab, she literally told a lie, but the others, they kind of more, like when the army was running away, it's not like they were telling them, hey, we're not going to come after you. They just ran a different direction to make it look like something, but they weren't actually lying to them. So is there some kind of difference between all these, or are you grouping them together as all of these they're not telling the truth?
Yeah, so I'm putting them under we're looking at the idea of deceiving. So this would be under the category of they were deceived. They tricked them. They led them to believe something that was not the case. And with, well, I was gonna say with Rahab's case, nobody died. Well, they all did die. But with this, that was a literal life and death situation. And I don't know how they convinced them, but whatever they did, it was extremely clear that they're losing and we can take them. When it comes to these situations, yeah, to say things that are clearly, and this is where we're gonna find with a joke, because some jokes you're literally saying things that are not true, and so is there a difference? Well, with her, it's more words, but if it wasn't in the Bible, we would not approve of what Rahab did, probably. But this is the very act by which she's counted righteous in Hebrews. This is, God looked at this and did not frown. You got something, Brother?
I was thinking about the midwives in Exodus 1.
Yeah, there's another example.
And it said God dealt well with the midwives in the multitude, and the people multiplied and grew very mightily. So
the midwives, the Egyptians told the midwives to do what to the children if it was a boy? Kill them. But what'd they do?
They didn't.
They didn't. They were hiding them. They were, no, deception. To tell the truth, to do what was said, to say, here's a baby. So there is I was good bring that up. Okay, so joking. But so just like with lying or not saying the truth, joking is also not as black and white. So the definition that you gave, Grace, is saying something for the sake of bringing someone to laughter. Right? There are some jokes, knock, knock, who's there? I mean, that has nothing to do with saying something that's not true. And the Bible has different words for this word joking. You think of Samson, and remember when they took his eyes out and they put him in the temple of Dagon, and they said that they were using him for what? Yeah, entertainment, amusement, sport. That's the word for joking. So he was their joke, and they were using him as laughter. That's one of the words say that they thought. Yeah, his words seemed to them to be, he was jesting is the word they used. And that is actually telling a funny, crazy, unbelievable story. So there's good laughter. The point of a joke is to bring laughter. And there's good laughter. Genesis 21, Sarah said, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh over me. So her story of having a baby at this age was a joke that would bring laughter. And this is not seen as a cruel laughter. She said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? That's the joke. Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. And when people hear that, what did she say they would do? They would laugh. And that's not seen as a bad thing. So that's one type. Psalm 126, 2, then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongue with shouts of joy. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us. We are glad. There is pure laughter. Laughter is good. It's a medicine. God is not opposed to laughter. He's not opposed to you smiling. He's not opposed to you holding your stomach and rolling on the floor laughing. But all laughter is not good laughter. And so when you start asking the question, okay, is my joke falling into the category of sinful lying, or just sin at all. It goes to the same question of motive and content. Proverbs 10:23, doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. So one of the questions is, what makes you laugh? What brings humor to you? What makes you smile? Is it sin? Doing wrong is funny to a fool. So as you're telling your joke and you're saying this story that's not true for the sake of laughter, is that whole thing falling under the category of wrong? The content is wrong. The story you're telling is wrong. It's an evil thing. And you're trying to bring about laughter through that which is wrong. You're laughing at sin. Most of the comedians today, that's their content. Sin is funny. Let's laugh at it. Do you laugh at sin? Is that what makes up your jokes? The Bible says, if so, that's a fool's sense of humor. What makes the righteous smile? But wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. Love takes no pleasure in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. There are those who would laugh with others at things that are ungodly. Ephesians 5:4. And this passage here is talking about a specific type of comedy, a specific type of joke. It's using clever, witty, sharp, almost like innuendos and similes and metaphors that are sinful. So it's using your intellect to make people laugh with that which is disgusting and low and seedy. Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk or crude joking. That's the word, crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there be thanksgiving. So if your joke, is it a lie that's meant to harm people? That would be wrong. We're going to get there in a second. But is your joking crude, sinful, wicked, disgusting, talking about that which is ungodly? But then there are those who would tell a joke for the sake of harming other people. Sometimes this might be the idea of practical joking. This is the idea of telling somebody something that's not true for the sake of bringing about laughter. Proverbs 14:13 says, even in laughter the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief. Now there's a deeper meaning to that, but there is a principle there that somebody is telling a joke about somebody else and they may be laughing, but the truth of the matter is there's grief in their heart. I was talking to children the other day about that question of, are you laughing with me or are you laughing at me? And people do that. They tell these jokes, they tell these stories, they lead people to believe things, and it's really for the sake of being cruel. And now pranks, letting people think, there's horrible pranks out there now, letting people think that somebody died, letting some people think that someone's breaking in their house, letting people think that, just all kinds of stuff. And the one who does the prank, once it's revealed, they are laughing. But the one who they told is angry, is crying, is heartbroken, is embarrassed. They don't trust you now. So, but I think the verse, if there's ever a verse that makes us think about this question, it's Proverbs 26, 18 and 19, these verses. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, what? I'm only joking. I'm only joking. I read that before. I do. So let me tell you what this means. It doesn't mean that you're not able to make people laugh with a good heart. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Love is the fulfilling of the law. You're not trying to harm your friend with a joke. You're not trying to be cruel or unkind or anything. What this is, think of the first verse, like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I am only joking. What this means is somebody sins against you. They harm you. They hurt you. And when they're caught, they say, oh, it was just, I didn't really mean it. It was just a joke. Truth of the matter is they did. And so the first thing is they're shooting arrows. Arrows kill people. Firebrands, burning down houses. And when you go to them and say, what have you done? They say, I didn't know what I was doing because I'm out of my mind. It's a lie covered as a joke. The intention of this, so that word deceives, that's a strong word. It's not just, oh, you told me something. You made me think that, I'm trying to think of something that's not toilet humor. Little kids like toilet humor. You made me think that you didn't like my cooking, but you actually did like it. That's not what this is. This is where you steal from someone. You go to somebody's house, you see they have money, and you steal it. You put it in your pocket, and then they catch you, and you say, oh, no, I was just kidding. I was just going to give it back. That's what this is. This is where you set your eyes to manipulate or harm someone for some sensual, base desire. And when it's discovered, you say, no, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. This word deceive is a strong word with the intention of doing serious harm. Any questions about that? So, lying, bearing false witness. Think of the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. That's the command. We often say, thou shalt not lie. And clearly there's sin in lying. But the law is, thou shalt not bear false witness. What does that mean? What does it mean to bear false witness? What's the context?
Say you saw something and you didn't.
Yeah, a witness. This is court. This is you're testifying that something happened that it did not happen. This idea of lying is dealing with serious matters. And of course, it goes to the smallest thing where and again, we already looked at the different levels of this. Rahab, she said things that were not true, no matter how people try to spin it. The fact of the matter is Rahab said things that were not true. And I've heard people try to kind of whittle around it, but you just can't get around the fact that Rahab said things that were not true. And she did it because she feared the Lord. She did it because she saw the God of Israel as the true God and their safety with him. She's even in the lineage the Lord himself. So it all boils back to motive. It all goes back to the heart. It all goes back to the intention. What is the reason for this? Why is this being said? Why is this being done? Somebody wrote something here. And neither of the texts was lying condoned. The midwives were blessed because they feared God rather than the word of Pharaoh, and Rahab because she received the spies in peace. If the focus of the text would have been the lies told, they were to be condemned, because lies are sin. For who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing? Not one, save God. Yeah. I hear you, Anthony Williams. I don't know who that is. But the king would think differently. The king would have said that Rahab did lie and that she deceived him. In fact, remember, let's turn to Matthew. I just thought of another example in terms of the way that this is perceived. Remember the Magi. And here's this time where they meet with Herod. Herod tells them, hey, when you find him, come tell me. Matthew 2:7. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him. That's what he wanted. But they did not tell Herod. Verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been, what does it say? Tricked. How did they trick him? They didn't say something, but he perceived their behavior as deception, as tricking, as lying. And that's the whole point. If we only say you can only lie with your mouth, and again, I started with it's important that we understand lies come out of the mouth, but people can deceive with bodies, people can deceive with facial expressions, people can deceive with actions, even if words are not communicated. And God looks at the heart. And so we don't want to limit the reality of saying things that's not true, or as the sister pointed out with Joshua and David, pretending to be something that you're not. If you pretend to be something that you're not, that can be hypocrisy. When David pretended to be something that he wasn't, when Joshua and them pretended to be something that they weren't, it was not seen as wicked. It was blessed by the Lord himself. So it goes back to the heart. It goes back to the motive. It goes back to the reasons.
Also thinking about 1 Kings 20, about the prophet who has people to strike him. He said to his neighbor, by the word of the Lord, strike me. And he said it was by the word of the Lord. So, and then afterwards, because he got the wounds, he appeared to the king as if he had been the man in the battle, and said, somebody, I was supposed to guard him, and he got away, just to make a picture, because the king spared one of his people he was supposed to destroy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that.
So,
1 Kings 20.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was, because just in case they couldn't hear, 1 Kings 20.
It's like 35 down.
Mm-hmm. Any follow-up questions about that?
How can somebody who's now been exposed to these truths help themselves examine whether, they want to get better at this. They want to make sure, okay, I don't want to do crude joking. And so, aside from, well, do I want to hurt this person? Asking themselves that question, what else could they do?
Very good. Yeah. Well, I think to remember what Jesus said in Matthew 12, that on the day of judgment, every word will be brought to bear. So that's, Jesus often brought the day of judgment before people as motivation for living. The day of judgment is coming. Be ready. You don't know what time coming back. Be ready. Like servants waiting for their master. Be ready. So this mindset of judgment is coming. The Lord is returning. Death is approaching. Unless you repent, you will likewise perish. There's something that's coming. And so the understanding that I'm going to have to answer for my words. I'm going to have to stand before God and give an account for how I've used the ability to communicate. Some people are mute. You know, we have the ability to speak. That's a great responsibility. And then we have to be in our Bibles. We have to know what thus saith the Lord. What does God approve of? Well, Ephesians says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth, but only such as builds up, that it may give grace to those who hear. So is this giving grace to those who hear, as fits the occasion or as is fitting? Is this building up? Is this godly? Is this Philippians 4:8? Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. You know, having these things in our mind, the understanding that I'm gonna have to give an account. God has given me the ability to speak for his glory, and I need to use this ability with that in mind. What is my motive for this? What is the reason for this? Is this building up? Is this giving grace? Or is this corrupting? We talk about not putting stumbling blocks in front of people. And that's often, you know, when it comes to our liberties and should you drink alcohol in front of somebody, but words can put stumbling blocks in front of people. Saying certain things can put stumbling blocks in front of people. Joking about certain things. You know, if as y'all as pastor, if I'm sitting around y'all and I start, or as your father, I'm sitting around you and I start joking about certain things, talking about certain things, that may make you say, oh, if he can make jokes about that, then I can make jokes about this. So considering one another, those are some ideas. Any others? Any other thoughts about that? Any other?
Makes me think of, there's two games. One, that's like an icebreaker game that people play.
Right.
I don't think that's a good game to play because it's like practicing lying, and it can put a stumbling block because someone can see you playing that game like, oh, she has no problem lying, you know, to a bunch of people, even though it's only done as a game. It's not, it looks like there's no harm in it because it's just done for fun, a game, and everyone knows that you're going to say one lie. That's part of the game.
Right.
But to me, that's not good. And there's another card game where you have cards and you're trying to lie to people saying you don't have this card.
Right.
I forgot what it's called too.
It has different names.
Liar.
Some are better than others. Yeah.
I know, like those games, they can see. It seems like what we were talking about at the beginning, just for fun or like just for laughter, but it seems like or I think it's making light of something very serious, because lies and deception are not good. And to be able to just do it so flippantly in a game is not good to do, you know.
I understand. Yeah, we must never, once again, deception, lies, cunning. What is the motivation here? What is the reasoning? And is it worth it? Is it worth me saying something that so I don't want to say things that would make you change your mind about the game, not that I could, but since it's brought up as an example, what is the motivation of this game? Is it to increase my ability to lie, or is it to see if this person knows me? I don't know. The game only as an example, now put to the side. Those are the questions. What is the motive of this? What's the reason for this? And if your conscience says, no, I think that is absolutely wicked, then stay far, far away. Or when some other Christian might say, well, there's going to be everything that's been thought as false is going to be made known, and no one's going to walk away thinking something is true that's not. No one's going to be harmed or sinned against or mistreated, depending on their, again, don't want to put blanket statements that this is okay, but that's what I mean. These are the types of things that they get sticky, and you got to wrestle with them, and you got to really check hearts and check motives and see what's at stake. You do that in front of a bunch of lost people, yeah, they may say, wow. You do that in front of a bunch of people who are, I don't want to call people immature, but they would look up to you and say, oh, you approve of lying? To know the audience, to know who you're around. If I played that game with you all and you did that, I wouldn't think, oh, wow, you think lying's cool. Personally, I wouldn't think that. But if I did that in front of someone else, they may. And so, is it worth it? Some of this stuff is absolutely not worth it. It's not worth the risk. Any other thoughts?
Just thinking how some people don't learn to stop joking and learn to close their mouth, and I see how the benefit of being in the Word would help a believer, because they have the Holy Spirit within them, and to be more sensitive to the Spirit, pouring on their heart, and discernment. You grow in your discernment as you're in the Word,
Right.
and you're able to help yourself, by closing your mouth sooner than you used to.
Yeah. That's extremely important to know when to stop, not just joking, when to stop talking, right? When to stop, when to cut it off. And to be in your word, to know, to have the Spirit of God leading you, be slow to speak, not just with anger, but where many words are, sin is not far. And another category I was thinking about is like Grace. You know how you're actors? You think of acting. What is acting? You're pretending to be someone you're not. And if you do it right, then you convince everybody. A good actor, a good actress is so convincing that you forget they're actually them. You're like, man, this really is Benjamin Franklin up there. That is a way, that's a form of deception. You're trying to trick people into thinking you're someone else. But when you walk in, you sign up for it. I know that that's not that person, and I'm okay with them pretending to be someone that they're not. One of the things about saying something is we have to be consistent. And when we start looking at the essence of these things is when we start saying, this can actually apply to many things. And I got to be careful before I say, absolutely, there's no way that someone can say something that is not true, because I might be condemning my own self.
Are you saying that you're against actors and actresses?
Totally against actors. No, what I'm saying is that is a form of this deception that can be, it's like an undercover officer. It's like people who go on these secret missions, and soldiers who, the very spy, what is a spy? I mean, a spy, you're going in, you're using covert, you're using disguises, you're trying to blend in, you're trying to act like you're there for another reason, and you're really there for something else. I mean, we're going to, and as I said, these are some life and death situations. Nations crumble, spies are very important. God is clearly not against spies, because he sent in spies. They were hiding out, pretending to be other than they were. What about Joseph? Egypt. Remember? His brothers? He kept that up for a while. He had to go out of the room because he was crying. He was so overwhelmed with emotion. He's like, wait, went away, came back. He's pretending. He puts the stuff in their bags, makes them think they stole. They're like, what in the world's going on here? I mean, what do we call that? He didn't see him and say, I'm your brother. Hey, go get that. No. This whole drawn out thing. He was acting. So I leave it to you all's conscience to see how far a joke, or again, not the sinful kind of joking, not the coarse jesting, not the a joke, a fool makes wrong a joke, not the deceiving people to harm them and acting like it's fun, not that type of stuff. But when you just have the freedom, remember, all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. You have the freedom to tell jokes in the pure sense of what we looked at here. But that doesn't mean you have to use it. So before God in prayer, you got to choose. Somebody says something and here's that moment. Oh, I could put in something right here and it'd be perfect. But should I say it? Will it bring about good? Is it worth it? What will this lead to? Somebody says something funny and you say, oh, I want to keep this going. And so now you say something, you add on to it. Is it worth it? I'm going to have to answer for this. Is it profitable? Do we get rid of all of our board games? Maybe you need to. As I said, I'm not about to be somebody else's conscience. Before the Lord, you got to wrestle with these things. I just wanted to present, here is the reality. If we say lying is when you say something, when you present something that's not true and that's always wrong, then we got to deal with some of the stuff in the Bible that was not called wrong. And if we say, well, I'm just joking, so that makes it okay, we deal with the stuff in the Bible that says all joking is not okay. So we got to look at these two things and say, all right, go to the word, Lord, help me to put a guard over my mouth that I don't say things I ought not say. God is a God of truth. So in no way am I saying that God is promoting sin or condoning sin. God forbid. Yes, sir.
So, a question about with games. So, have you heard of Cheatopoly?
Cheatopoly? No, I have not heard of Cheatopoly.
Yes. Well,
That doesn't sound good.
It's about how you are able to cheat and tell, and if you get caught, then you're put in jail. But you can switch your pawns around and take money from the bank. So I was wondering, is it a sin to play that?
Is it a sin to play Cheatopoly? So the game encourages you to steal from the bank, to lie to your teammates, to do all this deceptive stuff. And that's the rules of the game.
It's
So here's where we would say, well, it's the rules, so it must be okay. I wouldn't do that. It was the rules for these midwives to kill the children. It was the rule for anyone who had Jews to offer them up. So just because it's the rule doesn't mean it's right. And there are some games that should never be played.
Why would you want to practice doing that?
So a game like that, that's a question of why would I want to play this? What is to gain and what is to be lost? Are there no other options? Are there no other games? And another question is, why is this pleasurable to me? There are video games where the point of the video game is to wreak as much havoc, kill as many innocent people, do as much damage as you possibly can. And it's not because there are no other video games. There are video games where you could be a soldier and fight in the war and help save people and rescue victims and all that kind of thing. And someone would look at this and say, I'd rather play the game where I could burn buildings and kill people and run them over with and shoot cops. And I'd rather play this. You have a game, well, let's play Monopoly, for example. Let's play Cheatopoly. Well, here's one where we're playing by the rules and we're not allowed to steal. And here's one where we can steal. What would make a heart want that? The fall. The love for evil, the love for sin is because of, right back to the garden we go. But the righteous desires to do that which is right. We don't find pleasure in wickedness anymore. So I'm sure there are 10,000 different examples of board games and video games and card games and stuff we can bring up. But the question is, why? Why would I want to play this? Why is this even made? What's the point of this? What's the purpose of this? Is this going to glorify God? Is this going to make me love him more? Is this going to bring unity? Is this going to bring good thoughts? Is this going to tempt me towards something else? And if we were to ask ourselves those questions before we engage in activities, we may find ourselves protected from many a snare. That's a good question. Well, any other thoughts, questions, comments?
On this subject or
Anything? Okay, well. So, tell the truth, do not lie, speak honestly and accurately. Be careful with your jokes, practical jokes, pranks. I have a friend who likes to play pranks on people, and after they play the prank, you know what happens? Everybody laughs. One of the questions you ask him, if you're thinking, I want to do a prank on someone, love your neighbor as yourself. Would I want someone to play this on me? That's a good question. What is the point of this? To bring about laughter. And does everyone laugh? You may get it wrong sometimes, but may your motive be the glory of God and love for others. All right, well, let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for the truth. Thank you for your word. Your word is truth. And Lord, there are times in your word where we see things that we say, I just don't really understand. I'd like it to be more black and white there, but it seems to be a bit gray. We don't like the gray, but it's in the gray, Lord, where we find ourselves led by your Spirit, where we find ourselves sensitive, where we find ourselves applying principles that you have laid down. Help us to glorify you with our speech. Help us to think of Christ. Help us to think of the day of judgment that is coming. In Jesus' name, amen.